It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Breaking news on the US Gaza peace plan. Hamas announces that it accepts some of the proposals. We'll have the latest from Jerusalem and Washington. Also breaking tonight, the disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is jailed for 4 years and 2 months for prostitution-related offences.
You are all guilty. We do not want you speaking here today. Do not speak.
The Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, is heckled at a vigil close to the site of the Manchester synagogue attack. He tried to offer a message of unity as the police investigation into the attack by a knife-wielding terrorist continued. Tributes to the 2 victims killed in the attack as police reveal one was mistakenly shot by officers during the armed response. An historic moment. Dame Sarah Mullally is named as the first female Archbishop of Canterbury.
There's usually something for a Mrs. Richard Bouquet.
How do you spell bouquet?
B-U-C-K-E-T.
And the lady of the house bows out. Dame Patricia Routledge, famed for her delusions of grandeur in keeping up appearances, dies, aged 96. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. We begin with breaking news on the peace plan put forward by the US president to end the war in Gaza. Hamas has said in the past few moments that it accepts some elements of Donald Trump's proposal, but that others require further negotiation. Trump had earlier given Hamas until Sunday night to agree to his plan for all hell would break out. In a moment, we'll speak to our US correspondent, David Blevins, but first to our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons, who's in Jerusalem for us tonight. And Adam, what exactly has Hamas agreed to tonight?
So Hamas has put out a statement that says that after careful consideration, it puts forward proposals. Now, right at the heart of this, and the message that will get by far the most attention, is that it says that provisionally it is prepared to return all of the hostages. That number is expected to be 20 hostages who are alive and 28 who are no longer alive. Now, the messages we're getting from Hamas are that although the original plan said that those hostages should be returned within 72 hours, that logistically they believe already that is going to be very difficult. Why? I think the simple truth is Hamas does not know where all these hostages are. Some of them are not actually held by Hamas themselves, so getting them together and returning them will be difficult. Flip side is they will also expect in return the 250 prisoners who are in Israeli prisons, Palestinians serving life sentences, and around 1,700 people who have been detained since October the 7th. That is in there in the plan. So I think what this most importantly shows is a willingness to do a deal by Hamas. But it's not all positive in terms of the Israelis and the US position, because the other thing that Hamas says within this statement is that it supports a new government for Gaza Strip, but that it would be a Palestinian-led government with technocrats. That certainly is in the plan, but the fact that this would be a Palestinian-led body is not there in Donald Trump's peace plan. And Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been extremely caustic in his criticism of the Palestinian Authority and has utterly rejected the idea of a Palestinian state, I think he is going to take a lot of convincing that the Gaza Strip should be handed over to a Palestinian body. Hamas has talked about a willingness to negotiate. It has also, though, in this document, talked about itself playing a role in the future of the Gaza Strip. And once again, I think that both Mr. Netanyahu and President Trump will say that that is unacceptable, that Hamas effectively has to be expunged from civil and political cultural society in the Gaza Strip that it is not acceptable for the perpetrators of the October 7th attack to still be holding any kind of office. So there are huge obstacles in the way. I'm absolutely sure there will be some here in Israel who say that this is Hamas putting forward a proposal that it knows will not be accepted. There are also those who say that that Benjamin Netanyahu put forward originally a plan that he thought wouldn't be accepted. Both of those opinions have traction. But the simple truth is that Hamas could have rejected this deal outright, and it hasn't. It's called for mediation. I would imagine that if that happens, it will be conducted by the Qataris, by Gulf states, by the UAE, and potentially Saudi Arabia. Certainly there will be Arab states involved in that mediation, as well as obviously Israel and the United States. The bottom line is that when Hamas responded to this peace plan could have died. Instead, it is still alive.
Let's bring in our US correspondent now, David Blevins. And David, it's now up to Israel and the US to make the next move, isn't it?
Yes, and President Trump has now posted the Hamas statement online without comment, but his press secretary, Caroline Levitt, has posted a picture of the president in the White House in front of the cameras with these words. Behind the scenes in the Oval Office, President Trump responds to Hamas's acceptance of his peace plan. Stay tuned. So it would appear we're going to hear from Donald Trump again in relation to this shortly. It was Monday, of course, when this peace plan was published here in Washington after President Trump had brought Prime Minister Netanyahu to the White House and persuaded him to sign up to it. But the plan is the culmination of weeks of negotiation by the United States with support from other places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Turkey. It didn't take weeks. It took just 4 days from the offer on the table to become an ultimatum, because earlier President Trump took to his Truth Social platform to impose a deadline on Hamas. He gave them until 6 p.m. on Sunday, Washington time, to agree or risk all hell breaking loose. And even by President Trump's standards, the language was very strong. He talked about Hamas soldiers being militarily trapped and just waiting for their lives to be, in his words, quickly extinguished, referring to the potential for great loss of life. He urged innocent Palestinians to leave the area. Now, you can see the strategic logic. He was attempting to coerce Hamas into acceptance of his terms, perhaps also attempting to frame the narrative, enabling him to portray them as responsible for any future bloodshed if they reject the terms. But of course, this kind of hardball in politics comes with enormous risk. If he doesn't carry out the threat, then it just becomes empty, like other threats he's made in relation to Ukraine, for example, and that diminishes his responsibility or his ability to negotiate in future. And if he does carry it out, it is civilians who will suffer, and therefore there can be more international backlash. I think a partial response from Hamas makes it an even more difficult judgment call for the president. But on the basis of what Caroline Levitt is posting online, it would appear that they are reading this as an acceptance of the peace plan by Hamas. We'll have to wait and see.
Indeed. David and Adam, thank you both. More breaking news, and in the past half hour, Sean Diddy Combs has been sentenced to more than 4 years for prostitution-related offences. The hip-hop star was convicted in July of flying people across state lines for drug-fuelled marathon sexual encounters. Speaking at his sentencing hearing in New York today, he apologised to the judge for what he described as his disgusting, shameful and sick behaviour. Our US correspondent Martha Kellner is at the court in New York. Martha, we know that the prosecution was seeking 11 years in custody for Sean Combs.
Yeah, I'm just outside the courthouse now in Lower Manhattan. It's a little chaotic out here. We're waiting for the family of Sean Diddy Combs to exit that courtroom and make their way outside here. They had hoped that they'd be leaving today with their father. That won't be the case. The defence team had asked for Sean Combs to receive a sentence of 14 months, which, given time served, would have meant that he'd leave court a free man today. Instead, the judge has handed down a sentence of 4 years and 2 months. That means he'll be out in roughly 3 years unless he is released early for good behaviour. It is on the more lenient side, perhaps, of the sentence that the judge could have imposed. The prosecution had asked for a sentence of more than 11 years. As a reminder, he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, together carrying a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. In handing down his sentence, the judge, Arun Subramanian, said the court rejects that this is just a story of sex, drugs and rock and roll. He said to Combs, "You abused the power and control with women you professed to love. You abused them psychologically, emotionally and physically." He also said that the court had not been convinced that Sean Combs' crimes would not be committed again. There was a particularly emotional, powerful moment in court as all 6 of Sean Combs' adult children stood up to speak directly to the judge. A few of them, the girls at least, he had 3 of his daughters talking, cried as they begged the judge for a lenient sentence. The judge said he had been affected by their words, but nevertheless had to respect the severity of the crimes of which Combs had been convicted. Sean Combs also addressed the court, the judge, directly. He said, "I lost my self-respect. I've been humbled and broken to my core. I hate myself right now," he said. "I've been stripped down to nothing. I am truly sorry for it all, no matter what they say." As a reminder, Combs had been accused of the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. He was acquitted of those charges by the jury, but much of this case centred on the relationship he had with his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, the allegation that he had coerced her into drug-fuelled sex marathons with male prostitutes. The court was also repeatedly shown a now infamous video of him beating Ventura in a hotel corridor in Los Angeles. Combs directly addressed that incident. He apologised to Cassie Ventura. He said that at the time he was sick from drugs and out of control. He described his actions as disgusting, shameful and sick. Sean Combs, as I say, will serve another 3 years in prison with the possibility that he will be released earlier for good behaviour. We expect, as I say, his family to be leaving court, his lawyers too, any time now.
OK, Martha, for the moment, thank you. Greater Manchester Police have tonight said they believe the man behind the synagogue attack was not known to counter-terrorism policing, but had been recently arrested for rape and was on bail. Detectives believe Jihad al-Shami had been influenced by extremist ideology. 3 more people, a man and 2 women, have been arrested, bringing the total number of people held on suspicion of preparing acts of terrorism to 6. Tonight, tributes have been paid by the families of the 2 men who lost their lives, 53-year-old Adrian Dalby and Melvin Kravitz, who was 66. Our North of England correspondent, Katerina Bertozzi, reports.
I have no words.
In the driving rain, a vigil just moments from the gates of Heaton Park Synagogue where Thursday's attack happened became an impromptu protest.
So I have great pleasure in introducing our Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, and before I do, please.
We're at the vigil here. It started off being a very sombre affair, as you'd expect, remembering those who died, but you might be able to hear those boos there directed at the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy. People, you just get a sense that they are angry at what happened here and fearful that it might happen again.
You're the one that can stop it! Idiot!
To me, the marches is what is spreading the hate. It's spreading the hatred towards the Jewish community. And unfortunately, it shows. This is what happened yesterday. And This is not a first incident.
David Lammy was on stage as part of a memorial to those who died and were injured in Thursday's attack. Amongst the speakers, Rabbi Daniel Walker, the rabbi of Heaton Park.
The pain is very raw. We are still in the crisis stage. We haven't even entered the recovery stage, but we are strong and we are going to recover. We are going to rebuild. We're going to continue, and we're going to honour the memory of those very, very, very good men who lost their lives in this horrible attack.
During the vigil, Rabbi Walker remembered the men who died. Melvin Kravitz, 66. His family called him so kind, caring, devoted to his wife and family. And Adrian Dolby, 53, who died barricading the door to the synagogue. His family have called him a lovely, down-to-earth man who will be forever remembered for his profound courage.
Whatever you get the money to buy a book for my kids, for all the neighbor kids, book, toys, always play with the water guns, water toys, these kind of things. He was great.
We also met relatives of Melvin Kravitz who told us not only about him, but their fear.
He was just a gentle giant.
Wouldn't harm a fly.
He wouldn't. No. I can't believe I'm talking about him as though he's not.
No,
he's not here.
I can't believe he's gone.
It's just mad. This country is not safe. For me, this is a terrible country. It just is not a safe country, not for Jews.
And that sense of fear is pervasive. It's felt by those in this community and those who lead them.
This was the day that we feared would come, but deep down we knew it was inevitable, given the deep tone of Jew hatred on the streets of this country, on university campuses, in social media, in some of the media. A lot of the Jew hate has gone by unchecked, and it was only a matter of time.
It's why the police presence is strong, visible, and will remain so for days to come. Leaders have said this community will stand together, that terror will not divide it. But the reality is many here are scared. They've seen what's happened and are fearful it could happen again. Catherine Ivototsi, Sky News, Manchester.
Just want to bring you some breaking news to update you on the situation following that Hamas statement on the 20-point peace proposal for Gaza as put forward by Donald Trump. He has now responded. We've got various lines coming in that he's given this evening. Donald Trump saying, based on the statement just issued by Hamas, I believe they're ready for a lasting peace. He's also gone on to say that Israel must immediately stop bombing of Gaza, and just reiterating that based on that statement issued by Hamas, I believe they are ready for a lasting peace. And he also says we're already in discussions on the details to be worked out. So Donald Trump confirming that he has responded to that statement from Hamas this evening, in which they have set out the terms of their agreement to the peace deal put forward by Donald Trump. They have said that they welcome the efforts of US President Donald Trump aimed at halting the war on the Gaza Strip, facilitating a prisoner exchange, ensuring the immediate entry of humanitarian aid and rejecting the occupation of the Strip, and preventing the displacement of our Palestinian people from it. Let's bring in David Blevins for response on that. You did say that we might get some swift response this evening from Donald Trump, and we have.
Yes, and that speculation was based on a post from the President's press secretary, Caroline Levitt. She posted on the X platform a picture of the President in front of the cameras, suggesting that he would respond imminently. And I think we will hear from him and see him on camera shortly in relation to this matter. But because she talked about him responding to Hamas's acceptance of the peace plan, it was fairly clear that that's how they were reading the Hamas response response, even though it is only a partial response, many will argue. President Trump has been determined to get this done, and things have moved very quickly. It was only Monday, remember, when Prime Minister Netanyahu came to Washington and they published this plan, even though it had been weeks in the making. And just 4 days later then, he effectively gave Hamas an ultimatum by telling them they had until 6 o'clock on Sunday evening to reach agreement or risk all hell breaking loose. They then responded to say they were agreeing in part, and that appears to be enough right now for the President of the United States, who is making it clear that he believes the release of hostages or hostages' remains is the priority, and he is apparently welcoming what he's heard from Hamas at this stage.
And David, we have had in the statement there is a line from Hamas in which they're saying that it's all dependent on a full withdrawal from the Strip. That's the context in which they put this response.
Yes, well, it is a very complex peace plan. There are 20 parts to it, Gillian, including a phased Israeli withdrawal, including the release of hostages, including Hamas disarmament, and also a transitional international governance arrangement there involving, among other people, former Prime Minister Tony Blair. So there's much still to be worked out. But the President right now, on the basis of what he's been posting in the last few minutes, appears to accept that Hamas has moved forward enough for him to believe they are serious about the business of making peace and serious about their intention to release hostages or the remains of hostages, something the President has talked about a lot. He wants to get this done. I think we've seen the determination in how quickly he moved from putting an offer on the table on Monday to issuing an ultimatum this morning. Things moved very quickly, and now we're in a position where it seems to be that Hamas are accepting the deal in part, and that's enough for Donald Trump. Will it be enough for Israel is another question altogether. But remember how often President Trump has spoken about his own peacemaking efforts. He tells us on a regular basis that he's ended 7 wars. He wants this one to be the 8th one, and I think it is worth noting that the Nobel Peace Prize winner will be announced next Friday, and that may go some distance to explaining why the President wants this wrapped up as quickly as he appears to.
OK, David, thank you very much for the moment. We will, of course, bring you Donald Trump when he makes his address in response to that response from Hamas to his peace proposals. Returning to the Manchester terror attack, and Sky News understands the terror suspect, Jihad al-Shami, was on bail for an alleged rape when he launched yesterday's attack. Our crime correspondent, Martin Brunt, has the latest on the police investigation.
Footage shot by the killer's neighbours shows the huge police raid on his home. Dozens of armed officers, others with specialist equipment. It was just hours after the terrorist Jihad al-Shami's attack on the synagogue. A complete contrast to the family snap of a happy young man and what's thought to be his own child. A man, it's emerged, who was on bail for alleged rape at the time of the attack. After an early, fast-moving police operation, it was revealed that one of the 2 victims killed and one of those injured were probably shot by a firearms officer caught in the crossfire. The force said both victims were behind the synagogue door and were hit as police shot the killer as he tried to get into the building. A day on, a 10-minute drive from the synagogue, the killer's house was still sealed off. Police seemed set for a long stay in their search for clues. Neighbours knew the killer and his family, but not well.
Said hello to them, spoke to them, you know, how are you, good morning, I'm keeping well and everything like that. You know, as neighbours do when you walk down the street and see people. But it's come as much a shock to me, because there's no way I could have thought that they were, you know, in any way involved in anything like this.
He would always keep himself to himself, never really let on to people. I mean, I thought he was an odd guy, and I think my partner Luke did as well, you know, he just wasn't friendly in that way.
More police were searching a house nearby, where, it's thought, 2 suspects were arrested. Alshami came to the UK as a young boy from Syria. When he was 16, he was given British citizenship. His father is a trauma surgeon who's worked with the International Red Cross in Africa. On Facebook 2 years ago, he praised the Hamas attack on Israel. In a statement, the terrorist's family said, "The Alshami family in the UK and abroad strongly condemns this heinous act, which targeted peaceful, innocent civilians. We fully distance ourselves from this attack and express our deep shock and sorrow over what has happened." From Arabic, the name Jihad al-Shami translates as struggle from Syria. 13 years ago, intriguingly, the name was used to send threatening messages to an MP who was supporting Israel. The then MP, John Howell, received death threats after defending Israel's military tactics. He told the Jerusalem Post he'd had a series of emails from someone calling himself Jihad al-Shami. One said, "People like you deserve to die." The Prime Minister was in Manchester praising the bravery of police officers involved in the response to the synagogue attack.
I'm absolutely clear in my mind as to the professionalism of the response, the speed of the response, and also that an absolutely awful incident would have been even worse if it hadn't been for your response.
For a second day, police continued their search for evidence to help them understand the killer's motive. Martin Brunt, Sky News, Manchester.
Police investigating the synagogue attack are searching at a property in Bolton in Greater Manchester. Our correspondent Katie Barnfield is there. Katie, what's happening this evening?
Well, we're here on Central Avenue in Bolton, and just behind me is a property that Greater Manchester Police have confirmed to us is linked to their ongoing investigations into yesterday's synagogue attack. We've seen, just as we've been here the past sort of hour or so, lots of police activity, officers coming and going from that address. What appear to be possibly searches inside. We've seen what looked like camera flashes coming from inside that house, possibly forensics teams inside there. We've also talked to several neighbours on this street. They've told us that there has been significant police activity here on this street since last night. 2 neighbours have told me that a woman living at the property was a white woman who told them that she had converted to Islam. One neighbour has also told me he saw 2 people being arrested from the property. I must stress, at this stage, we don't know the identity of those individuals and we don't know how they are linked to this investigation. But we have had a further update from counter-terror officers this evening. They have told us that 3 more arrests have now taken place into this investigation. That brings the total number of people who have been arrested linked to the attack yesterday to 6. They've also confirmed further details about the suspect, 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami. One thing they've confirmed is that a suspicious device that was attached to his torso at the time of the attack has confirmed to have been fake. They also say, Sky News has been reporting earlier, that he did have some criminal history. We understand that he was on bail at the time of the attack for an alleged rape. They've said he does not appear to be known to counter-terror policing. However, he does have a non-counter-terror policing history, referring presumably to that rape charge. They've also said at this stage we believe al-Shami may have been influenced by extremist Islamist ideology, but inquiries are ongoing. Of course, they're still working to establish a motive around this attack at the moment. We've also had a statement tonight, a further update from the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the police watchdog. They always investigate in cases where police open fire, where firearms are used, but they have confirmed that they are now investigating whether the actions of Greater Manchester police officers contributed to the death of one of the victims. We understand the victim, Adrian Dolby, appears to have been shot accidentally by police when they opened fire on the attacker. They have now confirmed that a post-mortem has shown that one person we believe to be Adrian Dolby died from gunshot wounds. So several updates from the police, from counter-terror officers and from the police watchdog this evening as this fast-moving investigation continues.
Katie, thank you very much for that. So after what happened at the synagogue, how are Jewish communities in Britain feeling about their safety? Our communities correspondent Lisa Holland reports.
In the Jewish community, people are on edge, looking over their shoulder,
Fears, of course, heightened after Manchester, but security concerns are nothing new. Patrols have been stepped up. But Rabbi Mendel Cohen says they've asked more volunteers than usual from amongst their own to come forward to help keep people safe.
I think the community feel very vulnerable. Clearly there's been a build-up to these sort of experiences, but ultimately the hate has been going on for a long time. Jewish hate is the oldest form of hate. And I think there should be more police presence. People have mentioned that. At the end of the day, we would rather go to the synagogue without requiring all these securities.
Torn down posters of Israeli hostages taken by Hamas give you one sense of why people feel threatened. It's Friday, and in North London we met people out shopping for the traditional Jewish Friday night Shabbat meal with family and friends.
If you want to know how we're feeling today, the answer is absolutely devastating. We don't need singling out any differently to other people, but we need protection from a vile, virulent anti-Semitism that has grown, but has been there for a long time past.
And it's that feeling of this was our home and it's always been and we've worked here. Isolation a bit, concern.
Is what's going on in Gaza making you feel more unsafe in Britain?
It's not actually making me personally feel unsafe, because I think the anti-Semitism was here already, but it appears to have stoked the people's views of Israel and Jewish people living in this country.
On Thursday night in Westminster, a demonstration took place in support of a flotilla trying to take aid to people in Gaza. The Home Secretary described it as un-British, coming just a few hours after the Manchester attack. We spoke to one of the demonstrators about the Home Secretary's comments.
I'm deeply disappointed in the Home Secretary coming out and saying that, because all she's doing is sowing division, and our communities have to come together.
But some people would have thought that was not a day to have any kind of political protest. It was a day to grieve and a day perhaps to take a step back. The Home Secretary has called it un-British. I mean, did you think twice at all about attending the demonstration?
I think it was the right thing to do, and I think it's a British value to stand up for justice and for people that are suffering.
After years of rising anti-Semitism, these are days the Jewish community say they lived in fear of, but which somehow felt inevitable. Lisa Holland, Sky News, North London.
Dame Patricia Routledge, best known for her role in Keeping Up Appearances, has died aged 96.
There's usually something for a Mrs. Richard Bouquet.
How do you spell bouquet?
B-U-C-K-E-T.
What?
B-U-C-K-E-T.
Oh, bucket.
It's bouquet.
The actor's agent said she died peacefully in her sleep this morning. Dame Patricia played the notoriously snobbish Hyacinth Bouquet in the BBC sitcom between 1990 and 1995. She also starred in Alan Bennett's Talking Heads TV monologues and played Kitty in Victoria Wood's comedy sketch series As Seen on TV. Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by political commentator Benedict Spence and columnist at the Daily Mirror, Susie Boniface. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the Eye, the headline, "The hero who gave his life to save others." Do stay with us, we'll be right back.